So the problem of how to balance our individual identity with our membership in communities is a perennial question known in philosophy as the one and the many, or unity and diversity. And this is a big question, right? In philosophy, the one and the many issue.
Not as much as it has been in the past.
Okay, so things have gotten figured out since.
Well, no, not really.
we just did away with it?
Well, we just don't do a lot of metaphysics anymore.
Oh, okay. So we've shoved it off on the in the attic, and we've
right, yeah.
So unfortunately, Christianity offers an answer that is surprising and unique. It teaches the human race was created in the image of God, who is a triunity, three persons, so intimately related as to constitute one Godhead. God's own nature consists in reciprocal love and communications among the persons of the Trinity, Father, Son, and the Spirit, but the one and the many, both individually and relationship, exist within the divine nature. So
the Trinity resolves and solves this particular one and many problem. Right? Yeah. And unity and diversity. We have it in the Trinity.
I think Scott Oliphant would probably like this chapter because his covenantal apologetics seems to want to focus a lot on Trinity responses like this. The perfect balance of unity and diversity within the Trinity offers a model for human social life and a solution to the opposing poles of postmodernism and modernism. Against postmodernist dissolution of the self, the Trinity implies the dignity of the individual self, just as each person within the Trinity is distinct and plays a unique role in the drama of salvation, so individual persons have a unique identity and purpose. And she goes on to list a lot, and I would actually not want to dive deeper into this portion, but because I would essentially be reading it, because I think she offers a lot of good works here. So at least for our books, it starts on page 209 and goes to 212. But Christianity agrees with postmodernist critique of the Enlightenment notion of disembodied consciousness, and goes on to explain that Christianity refuses to reduce individuals to their communities as postmodernists does, and Christians are reborn into redeemed communities that transcend all natural communities. So again, the church, the Trinity, the Godhead, these views produce a wonderful balance in practice within the church. Diversity based on physical origins are kind of done away with, but they're also celebrated. And remarkably, atheist Marxist philosopher has written movingly of the gospel's liberating legacy. The church itself is intended to be a powerful apologetic, a visible, living expression of of the Bible's balanced view. Every local church is a letter from Christ, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God. Francis Schaeffer calls the visible manifestation of love among Christians the final apologetic, the single most likely to attract the attention of a jaded world.
They'll know we are Christians by our love. Right, that's the apologetic.
And again, I briefly walked through there because when I was reading it, I'm like, if I'm going to highlight things to point out here, I'm just going to start underlining all of it, and then you reverse highlight and you highlight only the things you don't want to highlight.
So in this last portion, what she does is she considers the good of each of these various theories and shows how Christianity envelops all of them together.
Right. Again,
that's really what she does.
Because they're reducing the whole to the part and saying this is what everything is. And while that's true, there is a part that is true. It's not representative of the whole. And so Christianity then speaks both to the part and to the whole. It's trying to put you on the saddle and keep you there. It's trying to put you on the train tracks and keep you down there.
That's right. Yeah, and keep you there, right? Yeah. So materialism, she says, had great respect for the material world. The physical universe is not just a product of chance, though. The earth is not a rock spinning through empty space with no higher purpose or meaning. Instead, the physical universe was brought into being by a God of love and beauty, and it's a product of plan and design. So there, you have both and. Yes, it is a physical universe, but it's also more than that.
Right.
And it has purpose, it has design, and that sort of thing. Empiricism. To counter empiricism, Christians show that biblical worldview offers a better basis for trusting our senses. The flaw in empiricism is that we cannot give any guarantee that we perceive through the senses is true, right? In other words, how do I know that the chair is there? Well, only by my senses. All right. Well, how can I trust my senses that is a chair? So that's the problem. She says, we can't stand outside of our head to gain an independent vantage of what we're perceiving. So the only adequate basis for confidence in sensory knowledge is the biblical teaching that a creator designed our sensory apparatus to function reliably in the world he created. And so she does this with rationalism, right? She says that we can show that Christianity honors human rationalism as part of the image of God, right? But we're more than just rational, we're loving creatures as well. And postmodernism. To counter postmodernism, she says Christianity offers an even more radical insight into contingencies of human knowledge. Postmodernism reduced knowledge claims to expression of interests and power based on race, class, gender, ethnicity, and that sort of thing. But the biblical teaching on idols cuts through much deeper, right? The Bible teaches that the overriding factor in the choices we make is our commitment to a concept of the divine, right? In other words, your idol or your true God, true and the living God. Our lives are shaped by the God we worship rather than whether the God of the Bible or some substitute. So she says in concluding, in every area, Christianity encompasses valid insights of the other worldviews while avoiding their weaknesses. So Christianity is so attractive to atheists. The atheists keep reaching over and borrowing them, which was the point we made earlier. And because it's so attractive, it puts all of them together and they work together as a whole, as opposed to this reductionistic idea.
Right. Yeah, they can't help it. They're made in the image of God. They do these things because they can't divorce themselves away from that. They're able to be an enemy of God. They're able to deny. They're able to replace with an idol. But ultimately, God is even above the idols, and so it's just incorrect thinking and worship to replace or to attempt to replace God with an idol.
Reduce, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's when you run into trouble, and that's the great part of this fourth point of an internal critique. It's one thing to say Christianity is wrong on how the universe came to be. Okay, fine. There's conversations to be had within that, but then okay, so how are we? How did we come to be? How are we existing? How do we function? How do we act? What is truth? What is morality? Those are things that
or doesn't even exist.
Those are things that everyone has to put forth in some capacity. You could say I'm still working on this, but okay, let's bring into the arena of ideas and take a look at it. And one of the main ones to do is, can it substantiate its own weight? Christianity can, and so we think that Christianity meets all the principles. It doesn't reduce. It's internally consistent. It talks about what we see in the world.
That's just what we see in the world. Yeah,
it gives us the ability to for the intelligibility of knowledge. It allows us to predict things,
rationalization, reason,
to know what's moral, what's not. And so there's that. And so can other worldviews do that? And
without borrowing from Christianity?
Well, I mean that's the big one, because at some point you're borrowing so much that you should just call yourself a Christian. No one wants to do that.
Well, what we call them is created in the image of God. Right. That's why they're doing it. Right. They're unless they believe in Jesus Christ, obviously they're not Christians, but they are created in the image of God. And that allows them.
Yeah. And so there are implications to being created in the image of God that we should, by our very nature, accept, and accepting Christ is one of those. So.